Live. We are presented by Honda. I'm Eric Allen alongside Quincy Anunwa here in our Florham Park studios. Quincy, the preseason comes to an end tonight with the Jets and the Giants facing off in their annual summer battle.
Yeah, and what an exciting time of the year. Training camp is over now. Preseason is over. It's everybody's opportunity to really show what they can do on the field. This was probably my favorite time. We used to play the Eagles when I was playing. And that was fun because, you know, it's right down the street. Obviously, the Giants are down the street, but it's just a different game when you get that Eagles, the chant in the stands, all those different things. But, you know, this is a great time for those young guys to really shine and show their worth.
No suspense tonight, though. Robert Saleh said he's sticking to the script. That means no starters will play for the Jets. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of expected. It's the last preseason game. Those older guys don't need to get these reps. Obviously, we would love to see Aaron Rodgers in MetLife Stadium. The crowd will probably go wild if that was the case. But we know that this is the time for him to get that rest and be ready for week 1 against San Francisco. That's the real battle. That's the real test that we all want to see.
So I believe 32 players in all did not play last week in Carolina against the Panthers. That number's probably going to increase, Q, here against the Giants.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because now you have more guys on the roster that you know you're keeping, right? Those guys that perform well during training camp, perform well during the week, all those different games. They don't have to play this last game. They can get their body ready up for San Francisco.
All right, we were at the joint practice here this week behind us, out here in Florham Park at One Jets Drive, Jets-Giants on Wednesday. What were your thoughts?
I mean, the first one I have to say is Garrett Wilson put on the show. I mean, those Giants DBs had no chance against him. He was all over the field, go ball, slants, over routes. I mean, there was so many different times that he slipped away open or just routed guys up and got open. So him and Aaron Rodgers are going to be really fun to watch, right? Defensively, those guys locked it down. The quarterbacks couldn't get anything down the field. There wasn't a single quarterback that could really make a big throw. Sauce was out there taunting the other team. You saw him waving goodbye at the end. I mean, it was a fun practice, especially coming after last week where there was a little bit of like mixed feelings about how they played against Carolina. I think they did a good job of showing up against the Giants.
Do you think big picture Saleh brought these guys into the meeting room here in the auditorium and said, hey, listen, you go full throttle because you're not going Saturday night?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was kind of the idea. Like, hey, listen, man, we got to get these reps in. We're not going to get an opportunity to get game reps for a lot of you guys. So take a full advantage of these opportunities because they're few and far between. So just go out there, have fun, but also play fast. Let's get these reps in. And guys were doing that. I mean, I saw a lot of guys going hard, knowing that, okay, I'm not going to get any game reps on Sunday, so I need to do well.
All right, before we break down some more of that practice, Aaron Rodgers, no preseason snaps, so that means when he takes one opening night in San Francisco, it will be his first game snap in 364 days. Your thoughts?
Oh, man, I know it's going to be huge for him. I know we're all going to be excited, but for him, you think about the feelings that we're going through last year when he went out in that tunnel. He talks about it, the American flag waving, all the light show that was going on at night. I mean, it's going to be another night game for him, but it won't be a game. It won't be a home game, so he won't get those same vibes. Yeah. But I know it's going to be big for him to go back out there. He has a lot to prove. He has a chip on his shoulder. The rest of the team does as well. So it's going to be really fun.
All right, so a couple guys that I'm excited to see tonight include rookies Quantez Stiggers on the defensive side of the ball, and then wide receiver Malachi Corley.
Yeah, especially Corley, right, because we haven't seen a lot from him. He had a few targets this last game, but he just hasn't shown up the way maybe a Brownlee has during training camp or a McCutcheon has a little bit here and there, right? So I think for him, it'll be really imperative to get these reps in, get as many take advantage of all the passes that are thrown to you. As I watch him, I know that it's been a little bit of a challenge to kind of gain that confidence and run the routes the way they need to be ran, but we expected that. I think for him, it's really about getting those short passes and making those big plays. That's what he can do really well.
So overall, though, the last time he was playing at MetLife Stadium, he had 4 catches, I believe, in that preseason opener against the Washington Commanders. So these reps are huge for a guy like that. Bottom line is the Jets aren't going to be playing 30-plus guys, but Corley is a guy who's going to be counted on during the regular season to give him something a little bit different.
Absolutely, Corley, and then we also talk about a guy like Ferkser, right? He had a big play last game. I saw him break a tackle and go down the field for about 15 yards. Martinez, a quarterback that we want to watch, right? The Peasley versus Martinez battle. As I watched the film over again, I really think that Martinez had a little bit of a better game. Even his one interception was more of a miscommunication, right? It was a man route. The receiver might have been able to break it a little bit flatter. It might have been an on-target pass. You wouldn't have seen that interception. So there's so many little details in there that guys want to clean up this game, and I'm going to be excited to see, how they do it.
So it's very interesting from a quarterback position, for quarterback landscape, I should say. Aaron Rodgers is the guy. You got an established backup quarterback there in Tyrod Taylor. Jordan Travis, the rookie from Florida State.
Yeah.
He started camp on the NFI list. So what is his condition going to be in the regular season? Adrian Martinez, Andrew Peasley have been battling for time and reps out here in camp. Do you think the Jets ultimately keep 3 quarterbacks to start the season? Because last year, if you look at the National Football League, only 13 of 32 teams actually kept 3.
That's actually a good point. And when you talk about Jordan Travis, that's a guy that we really want to see, right? Because in college, he was a playmaker. He was a guy that everybody loved watching until that unfortunate incident happened with his injury. So now you're like, okay, what's going to happen when he comes back? And is he going to come back soon enough for the season?
Yeah.
If he doesn't, then I think it's smart to keep a guy like Martinez on the field, right? He's a guy that you can kind of develop, a UFL guy that played really well. MVP, he also has the ability to move with his legs. You saw it. So, that battle will be very interesting to see is Travis going to be available, or is it going to be Martinez?
So we got a lot to talk about because the Jets have to get from 90 players to 53 Tuesday at 4 p.m. And then some of those guys are going to come back because you're going to have a practice squad of a maximum of 17 players. Let's go back to MetLife Stadium right now. And here's Caroline Hendershot.
We got Good Morning Football's Peter Schrager joining the show right now. Peter Schrager, how excited are we for the 2024 Jets season?
Can we appreciate Kesha and her fine work? Is that going to be all edited out? I don't know. I've been very vocal about how bullish I am on the Jets, and a lot of Jets fans are like, rein it in. Like, we've been down there. Please don't do this. Don't get me all excited in August again. I look at the roster, top to bottom, with you enhancing the offensive line. I don't see many weaknesses. And you're telling me the quarterbacks last year were Wilson, Boyle, Simeon, and now you have Aaron Rodgers? Like, there's no reason this team shouldn't compete for the AFC.
Okay, so you heard it here with Peter Schrager first, but what about a lot of those starting players aren't playing tonight? They're sitting. What are we looking for in tonight's matchup against the Giants, that last preseason game for those trying to make the 53-man roster?
Yeah, look, you're watching. You want to see the vibes of the team and how it looks. Like, those guys aren't dressing, but you better believe Rodgers is going to be engaged. You better believe Tyrod's going to be talking, and these guys are going to be up, and obviously Garrett Wilson and Sauce. But, like, the guys that are playing, I'm looking at the 2 rookie running backs. I'm excited to see Brown out. I have not been to a game in person yet. Like, it's almost like it's Paul Bunyan, like larger than life what he's been doing. So I want to see him, and obviously Isaiah as well. And then, like, I look at Izzy as like a 3rd running back. It's like, all right, like, there's 2 other guys that everyone seems hot on. Like, what are you going to do tonight? So there is a lot of competition out there and plenty of reason to watch.
Is there anyone that you've been told is flying under the radar, maybe not getting enough clout that they deserve?
Yeah, Watts, the pass rusher, the kid out of Connecticut. Like, when we were in the meeting, we were talking to a lot of different people with the Jets, and his name keeps coming up. It's like, hey, this guy's playing well. So you don't think about, UConn or, a guy that's not in the starting lineup. You don't really think about it. But when you go to practice and hear, okay, he's making plays, he's progressing, I want to see that on the field today.
Now, this rookie draft class, you mentioned 2 of them with the running backs. What do you think their impact on the field this year will be? Because you've got someone like Quantez Stiggers, who has transferred from the CFL to the NFL, what seems like very seamlessly.
Yeah, and has, like, fit in. And they were talking up Key this week, who's Mr. Irrelevant, and at home you're like, was basically Nick Saban's, like, voice out there on defense last year for Alabama. So really good class. Obviously, Corley's getting a lot of love. The Yak King, like, loaded rookie class, but until they play, I can't, like, crown them yet, Right.
Awesome, Peter. Thanks for the time. We will toss it back to you, EA, in studio.
All right, great stuff. Looks like Shregs is ready to dance. He's on the call tonight he's not with Bob Wischusen. He's with Iron Eagle up at CBS. Bob Wischusen's going to be with Anthony Beck on iHeartRadio. And we got Quincy Anunwa back in the studio. I love it.
Yeah, AB, man.
Hey, so what do you think about what Schrags just said there? He's mentioning the rookie running backs. I wanted to get your thoughts on their preseason because Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, I don't know if they're going to be playing tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because I know everybody wants to watch him. Braylon Allen, I mean, he really just kind of took off the first game. And I like that he's also shown his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. The one play I continue to talk about is Tyrod Taylor was rolling to the right and was just kind of getting the ball out there. But he threw a laser at Braylon Allen. He snagged it with his hands, not even bobbled it. So you can tell he's a guy that's a hands catcher, a guy that does really well catching the ball out the backfield. Isaiah Davis as well is a guy that you can put out there in the backfield to catch the ball, but also can be a returner, right? So you can put him back there to show those skills too. So those two backs, man, they're dynamic, strong guys. So, you know, we're seeing Isaiah Davis here.
He's dressing.
Yeah.
You know that. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get the ball tonight.
Right. And you know, it's unfortunate, like I said, because those guys are really fun to watch. Izzy Abanikanda has been trying to come strong in the games. You know, they've given him a lot of reps, but it's just, you know, the plays that he's been making are few and far between. And so it'll be interesting what they do with him because do you keep 4 backs or where do you go?
Man, I love that. The depth at the running back position is one of the biggest stories on this team.
Yeah.
How you go back-to-back in the draft with Braylon Allen and come back with Isaiah Davis. And Davis is a versatile piece because the Jets have been using him at the return position as well. So Xavier Gibson is the top returner on this team. But Corley and Isaiah Davis, a pair of rookies, they might get their chances in the regular season back there as well. You need 2 now with that new kickoff rule.
Exactly. And it'll be interesting to see, right? Because we do have Xavier Gibson, who has been playing well in training camp. So you cannot take him off the roster at all. You can't take him off the depth chart. The guy has shown up, and not even like a quiet show up. Like when his number is called, he makes the plays that are supposed to be made for him. So I mean, that guy is continuing to show growth, and that's something I wanted to see last year, and he's doing that.
Oh, Gibson's definitely here. It's just how is it going to work at the return position?
Of course.
And we're also got to talk about a rookie at the return position here in a couple moments. But sticking with the running backs, you talked about Abanikanda.
Yeah.
I think he's an NFL running back.
Yeah.
Now, when you're making a 53, he's one of the guys that, okay, that's a tough decision because can he keep 4 or are you going to be looking at other positions as far as making sure that you're adding to the depth there?
And I fully agree. I think he's got great size, right, at 5'10", 216, and he's fast, but he's also got a good build. The one knock I found on him during practice was balance. Okay. I felt like a lot of times he would get knocked over just a little bit too easy, but in general, he is a great back for your team. Like, I think if you didn't have all these other great backs, he would really have a chance to shine. So today is a great opportunity for him to show the league that he's an NFL back.
All right, you talked about it before. Corley, what's been the most significant part of his transition so far? Where have you seen the growth? And also, what do you want to see tonight when you know he's going to get more run?
You know, I think the hardest thing about playing receiver in the league, especially when you don't come from like an Ohio State or LSU, where those are like receiver universities, right, is that you know how to run routes, but you don't know how to run them creatively. And that's one thing I'm seeing that he's still kind of learning, right? Because there's got to be a certain level of savviness that you have to have in order to beat DBs in the league. And he's still gaining that. I think he has the ability to. You can tell when you talk to him that he's a sponge. He wants to learn. He wants to grow. But right now, there's just some things that he has to learn. And he's got some great guys to learn from, right? I mean, I think Garrett Wilson is one of the best receivers in the league at running routes. I call him an acrobat. You know, he's able to move so well, bend, and so that's a great guy for him to learn from.
Can you break down his touchdown the other day against the Giants when we're talking about Garrett Wilson? Because Tyron Smith, he takes care of Brian Burns, providing that great protection for Aaron Rodgers. But what did Garrett Wilson do at the line to McLeod? And then also can you talk about the tracking and the speed down the field?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is off the line, right? He has a great job of just getting off the line and making sure you don't touch him. That's like, there's like 3 phases to the route, right? So the first phase is getting off the line. So he did a great job of getting off the line, getting his hands off of him, so it was a clean release. Then the second phase is while you're running that route. So what he does well is there's a lot of hand fighting going on. And he has one thing I'll say first off is that his stride length is the same no matter what route he's running. And that's important. You want everything to look the same. So while he's keeping that stride length the same, he's also doing a good job of fighting off hands. And then the last phase, obviously, is just getting to the ball, putting yourself in a position to catch the ball where the DB can't catch it. He did a great job. I wish we had like a perfect all 22 highlight so you could see it, but it was just all 3 phases were just immaculate.
Such a cool moment. Now let's go back to MetLife Stadium. Here's Caroline.
I got Dan Spioski, the Senior Director of Football Operations, with me with the Jets. Now, Dan, this process from now until Tuesday when the 53-man roster cuts happen, how complicated is that, and what is that process like for you specifically?
Sure, so there's certainly a lot going on between now and then. After this game, we're going to evaluate this film, take a look at our roster from top to bottom, and start to decide how this thing's going to shape up for us.
Are they a lot of long nights, kind of like the draft, where you get in there, you're in there all day kind of watching film, catching up, and trying to make those decisions?
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot going on between now and then. Our entire pro staff will get together, and we'll evaluate film not just from our team, but from teams around the league to see how those players have played throughout the preseason games and start to decide how we can make this thing come together.
Okay, and how intricate is this process? Because you almost have to play a little bit of gymnastics with who goes to the practice squad, who's on the 53, maybe who you cut. How complicated is that?
Sure, so we certainly rely on the coaching staff to see who they feel would be best to be available for our regular season games, whether it be who we need for the active roster or who we need to be able to get through practice throughout the week. So we rely heavily on them and trust their opinion as to who those players might be.
How different is this roster from 2021?
Yeah, this roster is definitely developed. I think it's a testament to our coaching staff and our support staff as a whole. You see how they've made these players develop throughout time, their ability to convey the information about not just our scheme, but who we want as people and players within our ability. So it's been really great.
Does it make your job harder when the roster is as deep as it is this year?
Well, it certainly makes the decisions a lot harder to go through, but it's really a great position to be in. We love to see these guys come out here and compete throughout the preseason, and hard decisions are good decisions.
Exactly. Awesome. Thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Caroline. She's doing double duty tonight, working for iHeartRadio on the sideline as well as CBS. Ooh. So whether you're watching the game or you're listening to it, you're going to see or hear Caroline doing a great job down there at MetLife Stadium. Earlier today, the Jets restructured the club's personnel department, naming John Carr and Greg Nejma co-directors of player personnel, and DZ, who we just heard from, he is now the club's senior director of football operations. Also, Jay Mandolisi is going to be the director of college scouting, and I think we're going to hear from Mandolisi coming up as well, Q. So Joe Douglas making several moves this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's proud of the people that he's brought in and that he's working with, right? So I think it was important to restructure some of the things and bring these guys up. I mean, listen, this last draft class was, amazing. Dan said it, or Peter said it earlier. Obviously we want to see how they show up on the field. But even the draft class of 2022 was, one of the best,
could be
right?
Historic, right?
Right.
So it could be one of the best in Jets history.
They've continued to put good products on the field, And as a player, when I'm putting a good product on the field, I would like to be shown why. And they're doing the same thing there.
Speaking of putting a good product on the field, let's go back to Wednesday. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offense could not be stopped against the Giants defense. One of the things that I was most impressed about was the Jets offensive line, how they held up against Dexter Lawrence in the middle, Brian Burns on the outside, Thibodeau on the outside. They gave him a clean pocket.
Yeah.
And when you give Rodgers a clean pocket, he's going to make your life really difficult on the other side of the ball.
Oh, yeah, he's going to make it miserable, and that's exactly what he did the whole practice. And you're talking about Tyron Smith, right? You're talking about all these different guys. Even Tittman showed up, right? So I think it's great that they shored up that offensive line, because we saw last year there was just a lot of rotation, right? And that's not what you want on the offensive line. You want some continuity. You want to see consistency, and that's not what we saw last year. So we're hoping that everybody stays healthy, but right now this is a great look for Aaron Rodgers, and I know he feels confident behind that O-line. He even said himself, John Simpson was a guy that surprised him that's doing really well.
Yeah, bottom line, you had 13 different offensive line combinations last year. You had instability at the quarterback position. Now you got Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor there. Hopefully you get 17 games out of Rodgers. Defensively, the other day, the one point of emphasis I think everybody's still going to continue to focus on, and rightfully so, if you're a Jets fan, is when is Hassan Reddick going to get here?
Right.
but he's not here right now. So your thoughts overall on what you've seen from the Jets at the edge spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's some things that they want to see guys do a little bit better. Will McDonald is a guy that's been showing up on one-on-ones.
You like his athleticism?
Well. Of course. Yeah. A guy that can bend like he can. I talked to Lejay Duzelboy about some of his skill sets, and he loves his bend. He loves that spin move that he continues to use, right? We're talking about different guys all around that O-line. Leonard Taylor.
I thought Jermaine Johnson had a great practice the other day against the Giants. I thought he was buzzing the tower all over the place.
Definitely. Jermaine Johnson is a guy that we know is a quality defensive lineman, right? A guy that's shown up as a Pro Bowl player, right? So we know he's going to do exactly what he's supposed to do. I'm looking at Michael Clemens. I'm sorry. There we go. Michael Clemens is a guy that I want to see him kind of stay in his lane just a little bit more. Sometimes he's so happy to go chase the ball that he gives up big plays.
Maybe
right?
A little overeager.
Exactly. But I mean, this is the guy this is what you like him for, right? He's got great energy. He's a mean, tough guy. So he wants to make those plays. He wants to get in on those plays. But we just want to see him stay in his lane as well.
So he transformed his body in the offseason. Guys, he might be down like 20 pounds. He looks like he totally has transformed that body. One guy who's really stood out to me throughout the summer is a former first-round pick, Takk McKinley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's actually a guy. Go ahead, yeah.
No. So, I mean, as far as getting pressure on the quarterback, I mean, again, he's not lining up with the ones, but oftentimes we saw him in camp get around that edge, and he was creating havoc in the offensive backfield.
Definitely. And actually, Takk McKinley is a guy that I've been told to watch out for, right? For former first-round draft pick. And they're saying if he comes around, then that's a steal. And anytime you can get a first-round draft pick that's playing the way that he was supposed to play when he first got in, I mean, what else could you ask for? You're not paying him at first-round money, but you're getting great quality talent. So they're looking for him to really show up. A guy that I've been hearing about, though, is Bruce Hector.
Yep.
Right? Bruce Hector is another guy that they're saying is doing really well. Leonard Taylor, we saw him make some plays in that first game. His name has been coming up as well. And then McGregor. McGregor is another guy. You know, he's been getting some pressure. He's been making some plays in practice. That's another guy to look out for.
Yeah, and Schreiger just mentioned Eric Watts, of course. It's going to be fascinating what happens over the next 48 hours or so once we get through this game, because the Jets suddenly, not only do they have top-end talent, they have arguably some of the best depth in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I think last year defensively they had a lot of depth as well, but this year you're seeing it even more so. I think one of the main concerns was defensive line, and they're really trying to shore that up. They got a lot of guys really trying to come in and prove their worth on this team.
There's Adrian Martinez warming up here at MetLife Stadium. Aaron Rodgers, of course, his preseason is done. I think Tyrod Taylor, his preseason is probably done as well. Robert Saleh said earlier this week that, hey, we're going to take the similar approach that we did those first two preseason games. That means that it's going to be Martinez, it's going to be Peasley, and they're going to swap because Peasley started last week in Carolina. This time, it's Adrian Martinez. Can you just speak to what you think's going on in his head? Because not only is he trying out for the Jets, he's essentially trying out for everybody in the National Football League. This is an important film for a kid like this.
Absolutely, but one thing I like about Martinez is he has pro film already. Now, it's not NFL film, right, but it's still pro film, and he was an MVP. That's a huge confidence booster, right? You're playing with other guys that have either been in the NFL or are on NFL rosters right now. So I know that he feels confident enough to play in the NFL. He's made some big plays on this team. He made some plays last week as well. One play in particular was the one where they had the face mask. Still had the wherewithal, fix his face mask and throw it downfield. I mean, he continues to show his ability. He's climbing up and just becoming better and better. Now, Peasley is a guy that we want to see him do a little bit better. He had a little bit of an off week last week. You know, that first game, I felt like he really came on. But last week, he missed that fourth down conversion. Then he had another missed pass later in the game, and he took a sack. So I know this week he wants to come in strong. Now, unfortunately, he'll be starting the second half, so he'll have to wait a little while before he can really show what he can do. But I think he's ready and raring to go.
All right, so where do you want to go as far as the positions? Hey, you pick, and then I got some questions for you.
You know what? I want to see cornerback. We haven't talked about cornerback too much, right? And I don't know if I would like to assume JBC and Stiggers are playing today.
Well, JBC's dealing with the groin issue.
He is.
So he's out. But Robert Saleh said he'll be back by week 1.
Yeah.
he's done more than enough, right?
Yes.
Yeah, where you'd say he's safe. He's one of the pleasant surprises of training camp, if you're asking me, because here's a kid who, when he came in as a rookie, was banged up, and you didn't know if he was going to be safety or a corner, and he really flashed with his opportunities.
Definitely, I'm excited about him because he has the perfect mentality, that cornerback mentality, short-term memory. He got beat on a play, but didn't give up the rest of the game. Continued to fight and scrap, and that's what you want from your corners. You don't want a guy who's going to hang his head low because he gets beat. You're going to get beat as a corner. It's just going to happen. That's just the name of the game. But how do you recover? How do you come back? Not only does that show a great corner, but it also just shows a great football player.
All right. Stiggers.
Yeah, Stiggers.
You're a guy who used to have to go against cornerbacks, of course. What do you think about his game making that transition from the CFL? Because it's a totally different ball game, man. It's almost like a different sport.
Honestly, it is. And I think one thing that you have to say about those corners in the CFL is they got to cover a lot of field, right? So you know that he's able to move around on the field. And I think right now they're using him at corner, but who knows? Maybe he can show some of his skills in another way. But I like not only his scrappiness as a corner in the pass game, but also in the run game.
Yeah.
He made some plays on the edge early last week, and that's special, right? Like, because you talk about corners for so long, right? The knock on them is they don't want to get in on the run game, right? They don't want to take any hits. But he showed that he's capable and willing to take those hits.
I also think this camp has been valuable for Brandon Echols from the perspective of Michael Carter has been dealing with an ankle injury, so we haven't seen him for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So the guy who's been getting those first reps at the nickel spot is Echols, and also he could be counted on big time this year from a special teams perspective, because Justin Hardy, this team's top overall gunner, obviously signs with the Cleveland Browns in the offseason.
Yep, him. And as we're talking about that, also obviously Irvin Charles.
Yes.
But if we go back to the corner position, Brandon Echols is definitely a guy. But you know who else came up big in special teams was Stiggers. I had to bring him back up.
I agree.
But he did, right? Like at the gunner position. I mean, this guy, as a young rookie, a CFL guy, he's a scrapper. I love those type of corners, and I'm excited to see what he does. Another corner that maybe won't make the roster, Brandon Codrington, right?
Yep. But this is an awesome point.
Yeah.
Because here's a kid who was the most dynamic guy with the ball in his hands last week on either side. You know, when you're talking about offenses or special teams.
Yeah.
North Carolina Central, undrafted free agent. Listen, tonight, again, here he is putting out audition tape for not only the Jets, but the rest of the league. And this return spot is going to be emphasized more so than ever after the change of the rules.
Definitely. And you know, it was fun to watch him, man. The guy, a pleasant surprise, honestly.
Yep.
You know, you go out there, you know who the top guys are, but it's always fun to see who's going to shine in another role, who's going to shine underneath. And he did a great job of that. 2 great returns. And the second one was even more of a surprise because it looked like he was going to go down and made a big play for the team. So, yeah. He may not make the team, but he's definitely, like you said, put on an audition tape for the rest of the league.
He certainly has. And the guy we were just watching a second ago there at MetLife Stadium, Jason Brownlee.
Yes.
What do you make of his camp? I asked Robert Saleh about a week and a half in. He said he started slow, but he's starting to come on.
Yeah.
Seems like he continues to come on. Most recently, that joint practice against the Giants, Tyrod Taylor dials long distance, Jason Brownlee touchdown.
Fingertips. Yeah. Listen, I think in the beginning of camp, you would have questioned and said maybe he was drinking the Kool-Aid from last year. Like the guy was, he did so well in training camp, and then, we didn't hear from him. But man, he really came on. And I think sometimes with training camp, you expect guys to really play well in the beginning, but the playbook is so basic that you don't get to see guys really kind of have any type of wiggle room to make some plays. Now, as training camp gets on, now you have more plays. Now you get to do a little bit more special stuff, right? And so you can see him kind of taking advantage of that and flourishing. I mean, making plays in the red zone, in deep down the field with the throws. I mean, it's fun to watch because we know what he can do, and he's showing that he's capable of playing at a high level.
We're going to get into special teams numbers here in a second because you can't keep everybody. Let's go back to the stadium right now, and I think we got Ethan Greenberg.
Nope, you still got me. Unfortunately, you're stuck with me, but I have Jay Mandalisi here, the Director of College Scouting for the Jets. And now, Jay, How has this 2024 draft class been for you, in your eyes, throughout training camp?
We're really excited about the group. I think, the thing that's really stood out to us is the character of the guys we brought in. Really competitive kids. They've all kind of put their heads down and gone to work. They are kind of the guys that we thought they were, and we're really excited to see how they continue to develop.
What about someone like Quantez Stiggers, who almost seems like the transition from fan-controlled league to the CFL to now the NFL hasn't really been a problem for him?
I think he's kind of like what we thought he was going to be, right? Like he's a kid that loves football, and he has proved through every stage of this process that it's not too big for him. And we're really fortunate he's stepped into training camp and done exactly that. Just no moment's too big for him. He's competitive. He's made of the right stuff.
Now, previously you were a national scout. How closely would you say you follow those prospects throughout training camp? Are you kind of watching them every day and watching their tape and kind of seeing how they develop?
Yeah, I think that's important for us. It's a good way to evaluate ourselves. Obviously, there are guys we like a lot, and we want to make sure that they are the players that we thought they were. We want to make sure that their game's translating like we thought it would. And it's really important for us to know our roster inside and out, because as we go back out on the road, we want to make sure we know our guys so that we can compare the new guys against the roster we have. We know where they fit in and where they can help us.
How much harder is your job every year? Because, I mean, you said it, you're bringing back draft class that just keep working out. How much harder does that make your job when you're on the road scouting?
It's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a lot of open spots. Ideally, that roster cut down to 53. Ideally, you've got 60 to 70 guys that you want on the team. So as we continue to build this thing up, those decisions are going to be really harder, because hopefully we have a lot of guys that deserve to be here.
We were talking about this, and you said the ramp up for you from being really busy to kind of having some free time. There's almost no ramp up period. What is your schedule looking like as you look ahead into the fall for the scouting year?
So we've already been out on the road for about a month, visiting college campuses. As soon as we get done here tonight, tomorrow we'll head back out on the road. Now that the season's starting, we're going to start digging into the film, going to as many schools as we can, and try to just keep making this team better.
Awesome, Jay. Appreciate the time, and thanks for all that you're doing on the road.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan, is back. The New York Jets want to celebrate you in your dedication to the green and white. Submit your nomination at NewYorkJets.com/Fan of the Year. It is the Jets and the Giants tonight at MetLife Stadium. Hey, after the joint practice on Wednesday, Q, were you able to see the dogs? There were dogs out here from St. Hubert's.
I didn't, but I saw the social media posts, all the dogs and all the guys having some fun with the little dogs around. That's cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. I heard the dogs are going to be at the stadium tonight as well.
Okay, a little puppy bowl maybe?
Yeah,
puppy bowl action?
But this definitely has a different feel than, hey, maybe when I broke into the league. I got a couple years on UQ. It always used to be Jets-Giants third preseason game, and you'd have your starters play into the half, and then come out after halftime and get a series in that third quarter. Boy, things have changed.
Absolutely. I mean, they don't even have the fourth preseason game, right? And that was the one that everybody really kind of looked forward to when I talk about young guys. As an older guy, it's a little bit different. So that's why I like that they do the joint practices. Now, everybody's always going to tell you, you can never make up for actual live reps, right? Like, it's not the same at all, but at least you're getting a chance to go against somebody else. You're getting a different look, too. Like, that defense might run a 3-4 versus a 4-3. There's so many different things that they can do. Their corners might be a little bit better. I doubt it, because they just have some of the best, right? But, you're just getting different looks. And so that's one of the big things that I like about that. Obviously, I think that fourth preseason game was beneficial for a lot of guys, and the third one was great for the starters. But it's a new era, it's a different league, and so you're going to have different looks.
There's Tack McKinley. We're getting a look at Tack McKinley here. The defense bringing it all in. Number 93, a former first-round pick who's showed some explosion off the edge for the Jets. A couple players for us to watch tonight. You were talking about Bruce Hector before at the defensive tackle position. Not only Hector, but Leonard Teller as well, and then Tanzel Smart.
Yep.
At the receiver position, how about Irv Charles, Jason Brownlee? We talked about him. Brandon Smith, the guy who Adrian Martinez has targeted a few times here, not only just in game action, but on the practice field. Israel Abonaconda, the second-year running back. I really think it's a fascinating fight at the offensive line position when you're talking about Chris Glazer, Xavier Newman, and Jake Hansen. We mentioned Codrington before, the returner who popped last week. But, the offensive line spot, if you're keeping 10 players, let's go 5 starters. Let's go Olu Fashanu, who's been cross-training throughout training camp. So he could be your swing tackle.
Schweitzer?
Wes Schweitzer, valuable interior piece in the middle, could play guard or center, of course. So you're already at 7. Then you got Carter Warren. There's Joe Tippmann talking to his quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, of course.
Xavier Newman.
Okay, well, wait. Let's talk Mitchell Warren.
Yes.
Do you think, have they done enough where you're saying they're safe? Because then you're 9 right there.
Right.
You're 9.
So, I don't know. I think most times you want to keep more tackles than guards, but it's tough to say. Now, you have...
Is Mitchell probably can play some guard, too.
Exactly. So, you want a guy that has versatility. And that's the most important thing, I think, especially when you think about the O-line last year. You want guys that can go in and out all over the place like an AVT, right? AVT was all over the place, and that was beautiful for the team. If you can find somebody that can do that for you. Now, Schweitzer, I heard, can do that for you.
He can. Well, that's the thing is that Glazer is out there. He's been getting some center reps. You got Xavier Newman, who we saw play center and guard, of course. And then Jake Hansen as well. So if you're looking at 10, and you're keeping Mitchell and Warren and Olu, Schweitzer's that valuable piece in the middle. It's going to be interesting.
One more piece. You really have one more spot.
It could be. It could be down. You guys mentioned Hector before. So let's get back to receivers.
Yes.
You got your top 5. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Mike Williams. Mike Williams has not taken any team reps, but he told the media this week that he anticipates to take some team reps out there on the field next week. So that would be a great sign. You got Xavier Newman. You got Alan Lazard. You got Malachi Corley. There's 5. We talked about Brownlee before. You also have Herb Charles, who technically, obviously, receiver, special teams as well. How many ultimately do you think? I'm not asking you who you're going to keep.
Right. I think you do 7.
Do you?
So I think you do 6 if you keep another tight end, right? So what does that battle look like, right? Because then if you're talking about keeping a few more tight ends, which, you're talking about Ferkser, Kuntz is one right there as we see him, right, that has to make a big play this week, special teams and offensively. But then you also have, obviously, you have, oh, man, my
But no, you got Kenny Yeboah at the tight end position. You got
Conkley,
Yeah, you got Rucker. You got Yeboah, who's been a valuable special teams contributor for these guys. And then you're looking at, what's going to happen after that? Because Kuntz in a battle there, Ferkser, you talked about him as well.
Yeah, so, if you keep another tight end, then maybe you go lower on the receiver position. But I don't know, because when we talk about Aaron Rodgers, I think a lot of the time, as much as we want him to be a tight end guy, I don't know if he's a guy that's going to put a lot of tight ends out there. I think he likes his receivers. He likes to be able to get the ball out quick, right? And so if you have a guy like that can be a Randall Cobb for you, right, and he has a couple guys that can play that position, then you might want to keep more receivers.
What do you make of the Jets' pace that they had at training camp? Aaron Rodgers said the other day this is one of the most difficult training camps he's had over the past 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, honestly, I was actually kind of thinking about it because I don't think they did like a big fun day, not that I know of, right? So as much as we wanted the players to play in all these preseason games, I think they did a good job of really focusing on the work this preseason. Now we're going to see how that plays out during the season, but one thing you can't deny is that these guys are ready for the season. They're focused on ball.
Yep. And again, everybody's going to talk about Reddick, but the 49ers, the Jets' week 1 opponent, what's the deal with Ayuk? Trent Williams.
Yeah.
They
also drafted a receiver who I'm hearing is not showing up the way they wanted him to. So, that's a guy that you wanted to kind of replace Ayuk just in case, and he's not really coming in and being the guy from injuries, but that's, still a question mark there. So obviously we love Purdy, right? We think he's a talented guy. You like McCaffrey, right? You love Debo. You love everybody they have on that team. But I think they want to be firing on all cylinders, and that means you want to have all your playmakers.
The bottom line is the Jets open the season September 9th in San Francisco. Yeah. Short week. Then they go to face the Tennessee Titans. Then short week at home against the New England Patriots, September 19th. 3 games, 10 days.
Yeah.
What do you think about that slate?
Hey, let's get it, right? That's the only thing you can say. Honestly, like as a fan, as a spectator, you want them to have rest. But I think as a player, you're like, man, this is the challenge. We're starting the season off with a challenge, and so we have no other choice but to just go out there and play hard.
Jets Giants, the summer is going to conclude tonight at MetLife Stadium. The regular season's around the corner. Stay tuned to NewYorkJets.com throughout the night for all your most comprehensive coverage.